What's going on, everybody on YouTube? Master Luke 5 here, coming at you live from the PlayStation Network. I get a lot of questions from people I run into about strafing, and there's a lot of information about strafing on YouTube already. So you could go look up a whole bunch of different people explaining it, but I'm going to try to explain how I do it, and everyone has their own little quirks with it on PlayStation. But essentially, it's kind of the same techniques that people use if they're using a PlayStation 5 remote or even a modded remote. To properly strafe, first and foremost, it's not so much about the settings that you have. Um, there is a little bit about the settings, but it's really about the controller as well. Because on a normal PS5 controller, you're using L3, you're holding down L3 to run. And that's not really the best way. So most people will use a regular PS5 controller or PS4 controller, and what they'll do is they'll remap R1, right? So here's a regular PS5 controller. They'll remap R1 as their sprint button, and then they'll go to their settings and turn toggle to sprint off, right? So you have to hold R1 to actually start running, and they remap it through the PlayStation settings because pressing L3 to run and strafe at the same time is not something you're going to be doing. What's going to happen is your character is going to do that walk and is going to stop strafing. So the first thing to know about strafing is either you're going to invest in a better controller, like for example, I have the PlayStation Elite controller here that has back paddles on the back. So it's got the left and right back paddle. So for me, using this controller, which is definitely a really good controller, I remapped the run button to my back paddle, which is my left back paddle. Actually, I use my left index finger to actually run forward, right? Run forward. So I'm not pressing L3. So that's kind of the first decision you have to make. Once you make that decision, whether you buy this controller or a different controller that has back paddles, or you use the original PS5 controller and you remap to R1, if you don't do this, you're not going to strafe very well in this game. That's just a fact, okay? So you're going to have to make the decision. Once you do make the decision, then there's a learning curve. You're going to have to get used to the fact that you're not pressing L3 anymore to run, that you're pressing either R1 or maybe a back paddle. So it's like a muscle memory type of thing. You're going to have to practice to do it. But once you have that set up, in the settings, realistically speaking, my camera sensitivity is 20, my aim sensitivity is 20, my scope modifier is 4. That's for like my mantis sniping. Button layouts default, left stick dead zone 0, right stick 0 for me. Okay. Toggle to sprint, you say no. You turn that off. Some people 180 turn you probably don't want to have on. I have it on. You probably don't need to have this on. The reason I have 180 turn on is if somebody's shooting me in the back, I can instantly turn around, right? So I can just go like that and turn around, but you don't have to do it. Okay. So once you have everything set up, okay, and I'm gonna do this live with my controller showing here. Once you have it set up, the easiest way to start learning is to learn basic cut strafes. Basic. You don't need to go crazy. Pick a straight line somewhere. Let's say you see this line right here on the road. Pick a straight line, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna tilt your right camera, the one that you're moving your camera with, just slightly to the right, let's say, or slightly to the left, depending on which way you want to strafe. Let's say I want to strafe to the left. So you're going to take your right stick and tilt your camera a little bit to the right, just a little bit. And what you're doing is you're just creating like an imaginary diagonal line where your character is facing forward, but your camera is slightly to the right. So it's almost like a diagonal line like this, right? Where it's, a little bit to the right. Now, once you have it a little bit to the right, you're going to run with, don't touch the right stick anymore. Leave it alone. Don't touch it. With your left stick, okay, and I'm just going to show you the left stick now. When you're doing strafing, you're going to run forward. You're going to hold the sprint button and press the left stick forward straight. And then, as soon as you want to cut strafe to the left, it's a diagonal. So your left stick is not left to right. It's not left to right. It's bottom down, top right. So most people say like a clock, right? So if this is 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, you want to be around 8 o'clock bottom down, and then you want to be around 2 o'clock top right. So people make the big mistake of trying to do left to right. It's not. It's like a diagonal. Like my finger is a diagonal. It's bottom down, top right. Bottom down, top right. And that's where you start doing cut strafes on this diagonal. Okay, like this. So to start learning this, you need to pick a straight line, tilt the camera a little bit to the right, just a little bit, run forward, and then start doing bottom left, top right, bottom left, top right. And what you're practicing is you're trying to get the feeling of where the strafe starts. So you see right here, bottom left, top right, bottom left, top right. And if it's not working for you, that's fine. You have to keep practicing. It's a feeling type of thing. So if I wanted to strafe, you see bottom left, top right, bottom left, top right. He's going to start cutting. He's going to want to cut. And your job is to learn where you need to be to get that cut to work properly with the camera angle. You see how it's like a diagonal? And I don't have to move the right stick. So if I start, and let's say I'm here, and then I tilt the camera a little bit to the right on a diagonal, and I start running forward, and then I do bottom left, top right, I'm not even touching the right stick. He's already cut strafing the basic strafe. He takes a couple steps, right? And he's strafing. Look, and I'm not touching the right camera. There's no need to touch the right camera. And that's what you need to start learning as the basic. Just trying to get the feeling of where that cut is, whether it's the left cut or the right cut. He takes a couple steps, you do the top right. He takes a couple steps, you do the top right. And you're going to see that your character is going to start doing that cut. Okay. And sometimes it may not happen right away. Like he does this, and then you try it again. And then he does this, and you try it again. Your job is to practice that. Now, once you get it down to where you can just go like this and start cutting, right? You could just start cutting left or right without moving the right stick, right? Just like that. Then you start learning, oh, okay, so with the right stick, right, the camera generally has to be in the opposite direction when you're cutting, but you start learning how to manipulate both sticks. And to do quick cut strafes, both sticks have to go in the same direction generally. So for example, if I'm running forward and I do a left cut, right, and I'm coming back to the right, the top right, I want the right stick to also be in the same position, the top right position. And then what happens is eventually you get with both sticks going both left and right diagonally like this, left and right diagonally. And that's when you start really doing cut strafes. So what does that look like? So you start off doing the basic, okay, this is the basic, and then what happens is you then incorporate in sync the right stick. You incorporate that. So as soon as you cut, you see both sticks are going left and right, left and right, left and right. See? Both sticks are moving diagonally like this on this plane, like this. And that's what happens when your character starts to cut. And you can go crazy because sometimes also cut strafing like this, if this is the horizontal line, right? When you want to do quicker cuts, sometimes it's better just to lower the camera slightly down. So when you're lowering it slightly down, not too much, but slightly, you can start doing, quicker cuts. Because the camera is actually it's not horizontal. It's not like this, although you could still do it. It's a little bit easier when you're slightly down and you could just do cuts like this. Okay, like this. Both sticks are moving in sync at this point, left to right. And that's what you have to start learning. And then what happens is you eventually graduate to the fact that when you're fighting people, you could do wobbles. You could start going left and right, not cutting, and then right when somebody's about to shoot you, that's when you do a quick cut to the left, right? A quick cut to the left or a quick cut to the right. You have to practice and you have to play with people. So it's a matter of time. But the basics of it starts with camera angle. Again, like I mentioned, just move your right stick slightly to the right and then practice this diagonal with your left stick, left and right. And once you get the feeling for where the stick needs to be for your character to cut like this, that's when you start learning how to do, again, both sticks at the same time need to cut. And what happens also is eventually you don't need to run far. Like you don't need to run all the way here to start cut strafing. No. Let's say I start at this, what whatever this box is, and I immediately run to the right, right? I can just cut right away. Cut right away. I don't need to run that far because I'm already used to knowing exactly where my camera angle needs to be to do this cut right here, left and right, right? Like I'm used to already knowing. But that comes with practice. So you do have to practice that. It's not going to come naturally. For some people it does, for others it doesn't, right? To do this. And then, people go crazy. Again, you can just start doing crazy cuts in front of somebody, just start wobbling left and right because you already know where the stick needs to be. Okay, but again, my best advice for people is once you have these settings and controller, you just want to start with the basic cuts like this, diagonally, so you understand where the camera and the sticks need to be so you can start doing them in sync. So both sticks left to right, left to right, left to right, both sticks. See? Both sticks are moving left to right at the same time. Okay? So hopefully this helps you understand a little bit. People do it differently. Again, there's other types of strafing as well, but these are just the basics of it. Laters.